Brazil has seen a 150% increase in gym memberships in the past decade, but also a parallel rise in obesity and diabetes, showing fitness doesn't always equal health. The average person in the UK sits for 9.5 hours a day, increasing risk for heart disease, diabetes, and early death. Children as young as 8 are being diagnosed with fatty liver disease, type 2 diabetes, and hypertension. Disease is typically seen in 50 to 60-year-olds. Welcome to the Fit Dads podcast. My name is Ryan Dutton. I'm joined by Brad Thompson, and today we want to enlighten you with some health and fitness facts from around the world. I've got a series of them written down here. I'm going to reel them off one by one, and some of them are quite shocking. Some of them we're going to try and end on a bit more of an optimistic note and tell you some of the kind of good things that happen in the world. But I think there might be a few that do surprise you, mate, because as I was kind of going through a few of these, I was like, wow, really, is that still the case in today's world in 2025? But before we get into it, catch up. How's your week been?
It's been good. Been a really busy weekend, very socially busy weekend. We're trying to have some pictures done for the house, trying to get it on the market and just get ready for when that happens. So it's a lot of DIY stuff.
Get all the knickers off the radiators.
Basically, yeah. And that's just me. Fixed a fence, which you've been proud of, mate.
DIY.
I never
Brad
take
doing DIY.
I never take before and afters. But this fence was decrepit. Like, no chance of we saving that. But done it, mate. We did it.
Did you slot? Was it one of these panelled ones where you slot them out or slot them back in?
Yeah, but okay. The fence posts were absolutely foobarred. So we're like, nah, that's not
It's
happening.
put new fence posts in?
No. Found a way around it. So sorry to whoever's buying our house.
They're still decrepit. They'll probably give you another 6 months.
Look good, though. They look good. But no, we managed to do that. And then on Saturday, Amy's uncle, who he does he's in an entertainment business and he does a lot of animal shows at Butlins, goes on cruise ships a lot. Absolutely amazing. Guy called Craig Croughton. I love him to bits. Here at our wedding. He's just life and soul of the party. He's unbelievable. And he brought his show on tour. So it's a place called The Animal Guys. So if anyone ever sees them at Butlins or on a cruise, they're absolutely insane. Very educational, very funny for kids and for adults. He chucks a bit of, guided humour in there that you've got to use your imagination for. And he gifted Ted a toy pangolin. You know what a pangolin is?
I do. I watched a Netflix show on pangolins recently.
They are unbelievable. They're
endangered species, right?
They don't even look real. I've watched so many YouTube videos on pangolin. And his Ted just carries it around with him all the time now. If anyone asks, what's that? He goes, it's a pangolin. And the confusion on their face. The most trafficked animal in the world, apparently.
It is, yeah. The Netflix documentary was awesome, actually. Really give you a good insight into these really kind of tame, precious creatures and how they are literally exploited as worse as any person in the world. And
I know they're endangered, but the toxic trait in me wants one, just so I can play with it and stuff, because it does look sick. It curls up in such an indestructible ball. They're
not
unbelievable.
Very fluffy and cuddly, are they, though? They've got quite an armoured shell.
Sharp, apparently, as well.
Are they?
So there you go. That's my educational slot for the week done.
I'm just imagining parents looking at him going, how the hell does he know what a pangolin is?
Yeah. It's basically that. But he's learning a lot about it, and he's like, the toy has got a big mama pangolin and then a little baby one on its tail.
Nice.
And I'm like, you can name it Ted if you want. So he's called the mama Penny, which I think is really sweet. And the baby's called Smash.
Smash.
No idea why.
Why is it a mummy and not a daddy?
Apparently, baby pangolins latch onto mummies.
Do they?
Dad's just,
How's he sussed that out, though?
YouTube, mate. YouTube videos. Yeah. We watched them together and he's like, that's so cool.
University of YouTube.
So, University of YouTube. So, yeah, there we go.
Nice.
Yeah. What about you, mate? Have you had a good educational weekend?
No. I don't think of any educational stories. Probably not educational. I've got a funny story for you, though.
All right.
I've got a client. I've actually asked him if I can tell this story on the podcast. It's brilliant. It's called Ian Foster.
Okay.
And he's about to become an uncle. So his brother is about to have a baby. And they were thinking of names, and they were like, what can we call him? They were going through the baby books, and they had quite a hard time actually deciding on one, because he was saying they were a bit indecisive. And they thought, we'll either tell people or we won't, but we'll run a few of the main ones past you, and then we'll decide of the main ones which one we decide to go with. So came to him with a few names. And they really liked one. Or his brother kind of said to his, Ian, I really like this specific one, but don't tell my missus. It's Killian.
Killian?
Killian. Like the guy...
Cillian Murphy.
Cillian Murphy.
With a C.
Yeah. And they went, yeah, I do really like that name. Brilliant. So Ian went away and a little thought about it. Yeah, it's brilliant.
Same surname, by the way.
Same surname.
Foster. Okay.
So when you put all these words together,
Okay.
it spells Killian Foster. Now, if you break that down, it actually says kill Ian Foster. So his uncle might be the person the universe is putting out that you might want to kill, basically.
That'd be an interesting murder trial, that. You're a suspect based on your name.
Your name is basically, I want to kill my uncle.
That's pretty impressive.
So Ian kind of went to him and says, I'm not sure if you noticed, mate, but it kind of says kill Ian Foster. I'm not sure how comfortable I am with my nephew being called that. And he was like, yeah, you're absolutely right. I didn't know that at all. So, they've had to go back to the drawing board on some names. But I thought, what are the chances of that? They've set up the name, of all the names they could have chose, it's one that basically says you're going to get killed one day.
It's worth verbalising these names sometimes, isn't it? Because you never know.
Past people.
Yeah. I'm thinking for syllables, but that's actually like quite a literal sense. Like, any Ian Foster's better run.
It made me chuckle. It made me chuckle.
That's
Absolutely.
a lovely wordplay as well.
Right, shall we get into some health and fitness facts?
Shall we? Let's go for it, mate.
I've got 23 different facts here that I'm just going to reel through. If at any point you want to interject, feel free, mate, and we'll just go over them in detail. So let's kick off with number one. Over 1 in 4 adults worldwide are not getting enough physical activity, a number that has been largely increasing since 2001.
Wow.
1 in 4. Now, we know it's on the kind of, it's on the increase, but that's still a massive number.
And that's worldwide.
Worldwide.
Wow.
Yeah. Number 2, obesity has tripled globally since 1975, 50 years ago. Now affecting over 1 billion people worldwide, 650 million adults, 350 million adolescents, 39 million children.
It's the children that concern me. Makes you wonder how much of that is learned behaviour, environmental issues maybe, not really understanding what it is that puts into your body. That's an alarming stat.
Like it said, we've mentioned it before in the podcast, but there's some stats. I think it's something like if you have parents who are obese or morbidly obese, you're something like, is it 60, 70% chance of being obese yourself as a kid? Which is shocking, isn't it? Because it is all learned behaviours, 100%.
I'm an absolute melt, by the way, for any stats involving kids.
There's a few more of those on the way. Number 3, in the US, less than 25% of adults meet the recommended guidelines for both aerobic and muscle strengthening activity.
I've said it once and I'll say it again, mate. The US is massive. That makes it even
It's
worse.
a lot of people. Yeah. India has one of the lowest rates of physical activity in the world, with around 1 in 3 adults reported complete physical inactivity. 1 in 3 adults, complete physical inactivity. They very rarely move. 1 in 3, and think how many people in India. You think US is big.
Have you ever seen the map of the world's population split into 2 halves? Have you seen this?
No.
So I believe you've got the rest of the map is in one colour, and then India and China are just another colour, just those 2 nations. So half the world's population is in those 2 nations.
Yeah, I knew they were both the most populated place in the world, and they're quite close to. Are they linked by a border?
Yeah, I watched Race Across the World recently, and they travelled from eastern China through to the southern tip of India.
Right.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
Completely different, way of living, part of the world.
I think I'd hate to go to
Culture.
Delhi. Delhi looks horrendous. Just how busy it is. An insane amount of people. Getting on a train in Delhi looks horrible.
I can't remember what the TV show was or who the presenter was, but there was a show where someone went to India and she wanted to do a bit of a, on the ground piece around what it's like to live there. And there's a really famous part of one of the episodes where she's just walking down the street and she kind of comes across this shop and she's saying some things about it, and then she starts walking backwards and she just slips over out of nowhere. She's like, bloody hell. And then she looks over and she starts looking down the side and she just slips on a human shit. She stepped in a human shit just in the middle of this street.
Right.
And then she just saw her face turn, you see a human being go to this person who is the dark side of her. She was with a nice presenter for 1 minute. All of a sudden, she's like, "What the fuck is this?" Basically, and just basically slagging the whole place off.
I thought you were going to say a cow pack. There's quite a lot of cows.
There is, but
roaming the streets.
Are they roaming the streets over there?
Yeah.
Are they?
Oh, mate,
They're like religious animals, aren't they? Cows.
Yeah, seriously, watch Race Across the World, most recent series.
Okay.
Shout out to Finn and Sean Ed as well, because they were unbelievable. Young couple who did it. Must have been 19.
19?
They navigated it really well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is this I've never heard of this show.
Race Across the World, have you
No,
not?
no.
Oh, mate, it's one of my favourites ever.
Is it the same route all the time or different routes?
Different routes.
Okay.
They've done like South America, they've done, So
And they pick
it's
two
amazing.
people and you've got to navigate your way from one place to another. Is that what it is?
There's 5 couples who do it,
Okay.
and then it's like a race. So they literally have to get from like one checkpoint to another, and say one couple gets there 24 hours in front, and the other couple gets there, or the other couples get there 24 hours behind. The other couple is basically a day in front, but because at distance, I think they cover something like, what is it? 12,000 kilometres or something mad.
Wow.
It's crazy.
What's the prerequisites? What do you get? Like, do you get a car? Do you get some money?
You get money,
Yeah.
and you can't travel on plane. They're
Right.
like the only real rules.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can buy like a bike or something, or
Because of the distance.
I wouldn't want to cycle it.
I don't know. I don't actually think anyone's bought anything before. Do
they hitchhike and stuff like that? Is that what it is? Okay.
Hitchhike. Just
And no
But like-
illegal activity.
no illegal activity. I think they've got some rules.
Yeah, no people trafficking.
No, well, yeah. I mean, it might get you there faster. You never know. Never say never.
Back on with
next one.
facts.
Next one.
To another country, Japan has Japan's obesity rate is below 5%. One of the lowest globally, largely attributed to cultural norms, portion control, and public health policies.
You ever heard of the 80% rule in Japan,
No,
where they eat until they're 80% full, typically?
I like that. I have something for clients when they eat out and they're like, how do I navigate it? I can't track it. I don't know calories. I say eat until you're 70% full, 70%. Because I like to kind of undercut it a little bit because people's version of how full they are is different. So 3/4 full usually for me is about right.
Yeah, Japan's got quite a steep history in wellness and even things like superfoods that are there, like seaweed and all sorts of mad stuff to do. So,
Yeah, they're also obviously one of the biggest tech producers in the world. So maybe that's having an impact potentially.
I mean, I'd have thought it might go the other way. Maybe it'll go,
Really?
yeah, maybe tech will just take over and be like, oh, this wellness stuff you're doing. Nah.
But if they've got a culture around kind of health and wellness, are they not driving that tech into that sector and making it easier?
Maybe. We'll have to wait and see.
Maybe another chat GPT search, we'll see.
Who knows?
The average person in the UK sits for 9.5 hours a day, increasing risk for heart disease, diabetes, and early death, even with regular workouts.
I'm sure George Leatherland and Adam Sue would probably attribute a lot of sitting to a lot of issues that they see. We've had them both on podcast, and the postural muscles tightening up and muscles becoming weak because of the sitting. We're not built for it, are we? We're not built for sitting down.
9.5 hours a day is crazy, isn't it?
That's mad.
On a bad day, I can do a few. If I'm sat upstairs, I'm editing stuff, I'm checking in with clients, mine can be quite bad.
I'm still disgusted that corporate companies haven't nailed down standing desks yet. I'm still really annoyed because I'm like, how many businesses in the world can just make one simple switch and go, oh, we've got your standing desks now.
Yeah.
You can sit down if you want, but you've got option to stand. How
Even,
many people just
even a
denied
few
that?
little walking pads around.
Yeah, I just think they can do more, and I'll die on that hill because I honestly think corporate world is gonna shit sometimes.
Next one, the global wellness industry is now worth 5.6 trillion, but that hasn't stopped rising. Rates of lifestyle diseases like type 2 diabetes and hypertension. So even though this wellness industry that we're kind of, I guess, included in, and we are sometimes living in this little bubble about everything's getting better, tech's getting better, information's getting better, it hasn't stopped lifestyle diseases like type 2 diabetes and hypertension, which is obviously two of the biggest killers globally.
I'm confident that when capitalism decides to put people over profits, that should change. But that's prime proof, mate, that it's worth a lot of money, but it's not working.
Yeah, there's some more facts on that as well.
Okay, all right.
More than 80% of teenagers 11 to 17 years old worldwide are not physically active enough. Teenage girls are less active than boys across all regions.
Wow. I suppose we know movement's quite a big hormone regulator as well, don't we?
Yeah.
And if one specific group of people needs to move a lot, teenagers that are absolutely flooded with hormones. They've got no way of regulating that. What's happening?
And why are those kids not moving? I remember when I was a kid, you know, we used to go out in the park, we used to play out. Tech. I think tech's got a big thing to answer for.
Definitely. When the last time you saw a kid with a broken arm?
Yeah, that's a good point. Really good point.
I saw a post about it the other day, and I'm like, oh, that's a good point. You don't see that anymore, do you?
No.
Like,
when I was a kid, though, everyone had a cast on.
Everybody falling out of trees. You know what I mean? Like falling, playing rugby or something daft. Like, you don't really see that anymore.
Yeah. Have I told you the story where I tried to build a ramp when I was a kid?
No.
I found some bricks on my neighbour's pathway once. Okay. And so I took them out to the front garden, built this like very basic ramp. So you're talking like 1 brick, 2 bricks, 3 bricks, 4 bricks, going up. Found this plank of wood, laid it on top. I've gone back about 100 yards, pelting it down. But as I got to the ramp, obviously the ramp's not even attached to the bricks. So I went up, my wheels are spinning, that wooden sheet's going back down. My tyre hits the top one, and I just go straight over my handlebars. I've even got a scar on my eye still. Oh, yeah, still got it above my eye.
How old are
you? Old enough to know better. No, probably around 8, 9, something like that.
I've got a similar story. We must have been 14 at this point. My mate's got this sled, like, it weren't snowing, it was just like a mud slide. So he's got this sled that you'd normally put in the snow, sat on it, gone down this huge hill, and he was trying to jump this little stream at the bottom.
Love the ambition.
And he's like, if you get on, we'll go faster. So, mate, I've got on with him.
I like that he understands physics as
well.
well.
Yeah, mate, he was smart. Like, I mean, not the point. He's not with us anymore. This is my mate who passed away.
God.
So, yeah, which makes it even more tragic, this story.
Not from this accident, was it, Chris?
No, it wasn't from the start. But I got on with him, and as we're approaching this lip, we're gathering some speed. So I've fell off. All right. He didn't see this. I've basically bailed.
Yeah.
He's flown over this stream.
So you've got his momentum up.
I've got his momentum up and then bounced. And I felt really bad. But I could see him just like take flight. Not seeing an ET where he just keeps going up. He just dropped.
Yeah.
He cleared stream.
Did he?
He didn't do it again, but it was really impressive. Yeah. Really impressive.
I kind of want to know how he died now. Was it Daredevil related activities?
No, unfortunately it was drink driving. Which he were always, I think he was always a bit of a risk taker and
Daredevil.
Yeah. Which is a shame, mate. He'd have been this took a really dark turn, mate. I'm sorry about this.
No.
Yeah. I don't know why I mentioned that he's not with us anymore, but yeah. And it's sort of knowing that he would have been part of his friendship group, and he made us a lot of memories, mate. Because he would just taught himself how to backflip one year.
Did he?
I
love that.
It's crazy, mate.
Because to do that, you've got to be willing to take some like massive falls and fails.
He did, yeah. He did.
I like people like Mavericks. Mavericks, I call them. People who are just do things their way, attracted to danger, real adrenaline junkies.
No, we do miss him a lot, and he'd definitely be a part of his life. And can't promise we'd go down mudslides anymore, but
no,
you know,
he'll be mudsliding somewhere up there.
He will be, mate. He will be, no doubt.
Next one, number 9. Sarcopenia, which is age-related muscle loss, is accelerating globally due to sedentary lifestyle and poor nutrition, with 20 to 30% of adults over 60 being affected.
Do you know the stats about people who fall in old age and break bones? And it's staggering. Yeah, absolutely staggering. There's also a correlation about grip strength and longevity, if you've seen this before.
Yes, I know it's longevity of life, but it's also you can do grip strength for recovery, can't you, as well?
Yeah. So there's a correlation between if your grip strength's stronger, you're obviously probably going to survive falls if you do, because you've got a bit more muscle mass, you've got that neurological power that you can fire from. But it's unfortunately that one doesn't shock me, which is a shame.
Yeah, but I think it is on the rise. I think people are starting to kind of become more savvy to this with obviously modern advice, things like that. Number 10, ultra-processed foods now make up over 50% of daily caloric intake in many Western countries, contributing to chronic inflammation, obesity and depression. I mean, that's not a fact that is completely out there. We all know that. But 50%.
I've always had this theory that, and this is not me bashing our parents' generation, but they were at that sort of cusp of it where like GMOs were being put into food and maybe things were getting more ultra processed. So, mate, I grew up on Pop-Tarts. Like, mum worked in a bakery, so there were a lot of processed stuff. So, how much of that maybe triggered my autoimmune stuff? Yeah, I have no idea. And that's not me blaming that parents' generation, by the way. It's just being aware of the landscape, knowing what we know now. So, yeah.
Do you know what really put ultra processed foods into perspective for me? And obviously there's this big thing around, right, well, why don't we just make everything from homegrown places, support local farmers, have all that as kind of part of our, daily intake. Well, what's the show called? Jeremy Clarkson's Farm. Clarkson's Farm. I watched that recently. And on the second or third to last episode, he buys a pub. Okay. And the last few episodes are him just trying to get this thing up and running. It's a complete shit show, basically. But he finally gets it there. And on the second day of opening, they run out of food. And what they realise is this whole process that they started, which is we want to get locally sourced English farm foods, get them into this restaurant. You're going to pay a bit more for it, but it's going to be local. It's going to be homegrown. It's going to be no processed stuff. It's going to be supporting local farmers. There's a massive supply chain issue. And the only reason really that ultra processed foods are around is because of population. We just can't keep up with the demand. And farmers can't. And even if, there's no way the farm, as much as, I think something like 60% of land in the UK is for farming. That's huge in a country. For now. Yeah.
For now.
But how are we not able then to provide for all our kind of population, our residents? Well, it's just not enough. There's just too many people.
I'm unsure what route to go down now with my next comment. Do I go down population increase, or do I tell a silly story about when I went to Clarkson's Farm?
Silly story.
So we went, I think it was last year, we went to Chipping Norton at Cotswolds. Absolutely amazing place. So we went there, and obviously we went to Clarkson's Farm. Absolutely amazing place. Massive queues, but the demand is huge, and they've just nailed it. They know exactly what they're doing. But that pub story reminds me, we walked past so many pubs in like the main high street, Chipping Norton and surrounding areas. Massive sign saying soup of the day, and it was just Clarkson drinking a pint of Hawkstons.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like
it
that.
just made me laugh. I'm like, amazing advertising.
Yeah.
I think Ryan will like that.
He's got a few adverts that are like that, that are just quite tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah.
But I really like Clarkson. He gets a lot of shit. And I'll be honest with you, when shit started hitting the fan, when the restaurant wasn't kind of opening as quickly as we would like, there was a lot of delays. It was quite poorly managed on the first day. He lost his head a little bit, and you kind of saw him turn from this nice, quite likeable character into, right, I'm the boss and I've got to get shit done. And I kind of sympathise a little bit because someone had to put the hammer down and go, right, what the hell's going on here? But you did see that side to him. But I do really like him. I think generally he's a good, hearty guy.
He's a Donny lad as well, isn't he?
He is,
Doncaster,
yeah. I think did he have something from Doncaster Rovers? I think in the actual pub, some memorabilia or something like that. But yeah, I love Clarkson. Sound guy.
Same.
Right, on to our next one. So we're going to go to number 11, which is COVID-19 related. The COVID-19 pandemic led to a decline in physical activity by 30 to 50% in many populations, and levels have not fully recovered yet. I literally had a call with a guy last week who was like, yeah, COVID was well active before, very inactive during, been very inactive since. And I'm like, wow, 5 years later, and people are still not back to where they were in terms of physical performance, health, fitness, eating habits. He said we're all over the show. Couldn't believe it. Like even now, I mean, yes, maybe 2 or 3 years after you're expecting some people to be coming at that slump, but 5 years later.
It is wild. And when the gym started reopening again, I was managing at Firehouse Fitness at the time. And I always remember we opened the doors again, people flooded back in, spatially aware and that sort of stuff. And I looked around and I thought, everyone seems to have done really well. Like they've kept themselves, in good nick. They've clearly been active. And then I did a bit of a head count. I'm like, well, I've not seen them for a bit. And when I caught back up with these people who I did highlight who weren't there, the shame that they felt at not reintegrating back. Because imagine if you've not seen someone for 9 months and they're the ones who put on a lot of weight, let themselves go. And the shame that they felt.
Yeah.
And it was really tough to reintegrate them people because they'd built these solid behavioural patterns over 9 months that they just didn't enjoy. And I just remember that being such a paradigm shift. I'm like, this is not everybody. This is not everybody's come back, and I wonder why. And a lot of people said it's that shame.
It's a good point, that.
Yeah.
And do definitely see that in people who come to me in a private studio where they say, I want to get back to going to this class that I used to go to.
Yeah.
But I'm just so out of shape that I feel I say honestly, I'm a bit embarrassed.
Yeah.
I know if I go back there, they'll wonder what happened and they'll be asking questions and they'll be thinking, God, she let herself go. So it's very normal, that, isn't it? Yeah.
It is tough. And people would just make silly comments. I felt people were judging almost. There were certain people who passed comments like, oh, you've been spending your lockdown, like said it in a bit with a bit of venom behind it. And you're like, come on.
I think some people, like, I've had it before, same thing where people mention things and they don't always mean it in a nasty way.
No.
They're kind of almost trying to make a joke out of it, but they don't realise for the person it's not that funny. It's kind of like it's a bit of a touchy subject, and they're kind of the person saying it is kind of hoping you'll laugh it off a little bit. Yeah. But deep down, you're like, look, I know I've let myself go. I'm here to do something about it, kind of thing.
Yeah. So I always raise eyebrows at self-deprecating humour because I'm like, you just saying it before somebody else does.
Yeah, always, always, 100%.
So.
Into our next one, number 13. In Qatar and Kuwait, obesity rates are over 35%, fueled by rapid urbanisation, car culture, and Western-style fast food diets.
I tried to learn a lot about Qatar when the World Cup happened in 2022. And it's such a fascinating little nation because it's got, where it's situated, it's got a lot of really powerful neighbours. And obviously the royal family is very similar to the way that, the Saudis run and the UAE run. It is a really little mesmerising spot of the world. But would you ever consider going there?
Yeah, I've been to the UAE. Went to Dubai a couple of times. That was nice. But very false and fake there. I don't really feel like you experience the culture of that part of the world. Not been to Qatar, not been to Kuwait. I've had clients from Kuwait. They were lovely, really nice people, very educated, very clever. Yeah. There's a big push on education over there at the moment. But I can see why the obesity rate's going up. Because anywhere where there's a big push on education and workforce, there's usually, people sitting in offices, looking at screens, and trying to fuel themselves on very fast, quick foods.
I think spinning that fact on its head, you've probably got less nature around, if you can call it that, because I appreciate it's mainly desert. But if you've got less of that, maybe that encourages you to not move more because you're not outdoors, you're not getting the fresh air. I appreciate fresh air in that part of the world must be pretty spicy. But it gets you thinking, if I can reverse engineer that fact a little bit. Yeah.
Number 14, Brazil has seen a 150% increase in gym memberships in the past decade, but also a parallel rise in obesity and diabetes, showing fitness doesn't always equal health.
Wow. I've got a very random story about Brazil, and there were a guy coming to station called John, all right, and I could sort of tell by his accent he'd lived in somewhere, like maybe a Portuguese-speaking country for a long time, so I'm asking him, like, what, I've not seen you before, and he says, I live in Brazil, and when COVID happened, he just jetted off to Brazil.
Wow.
Which very bold, and I'm like, why Brazil?
Is he English?
Yeah. I think it's from Wyburn.
All right.
And just went to Brazil, got himself a lovely Brazilian wife, comes back to England every, twice a year, I think.
Wow. So he lives over there now?
Lives over there. And I think one of the deciding factors was, well, they're not locking down anything over there. They've got a big push on health. And yeah, there was a massive uproar at the time because they were potentially being irresponsible. But John were like, I'll go mad. If I stay here during COVID, I'll go mad. So he went over there, learnt the language, immersed himself in culture, and that's what he said. Fitness is booming over there. So I feel like I've got a man on the inside now.
I love the boldness of that. Do you ever look at some bloke's life sometimes and go, oh, you got it sorted.
Yeah.
You got it sorted. Got out of here when COVID was kicking on. Went and you got yourself a Brazilian wife. You look in and go, damn it, what? We missed a trick here, lads. We missed a trick.
And he's got a little boy as well, and asked him the age-old question, who's he going to play for? I like, does he prefer the traditional values that you've got, or does he want the flair? Does he want the samba? What's he going to do?
I know what I'd play for.
It might make us win World Cup, mate. So
yeah, maybe.
John Jr., all right, if you fancy it, half Brazilian.
But to wear that Brazilian kit, yeah, knowing that Ronaldo's played for him, R9, Ronaldinho.
Sold me. Right.
Roberto Carlos. What a squad that was.
Yeah.
Robinho.
All right, sold. I'll pass it on to him. I'll tell him I approve. What?
In many countries, children today are expected to live shorter lives than their parents, largely due to diet-related chronic diseases and inactivity.
that's a bit soul crushing, isn't it?
That this is probably the one of all the facts today that took me back a little bit, because they reckon today there's someone out there that's going to live to 150 years old. So that just shows obviously how far modern medicine's come, health, fitness. But there's just a few things that are really missing and are really killing us from the inside out. And it says here, diet-related chronic diseases and inactivity.
Wow.
And so those two things are basically really bad nutrition, probably from these processed foods, and just the ability, of not actually moving much and being sucked into computers and screens and stuff like that. And it's not every kid, but there's a lot of kids out there that might not actually. And we probably all know who. You probably see these kids out in town. You see them around. You see them at your little one's school, and you look at them and go, he's just poor kid. Like different parents, and it's a different scenario for that kid.
I think that's prime example that maybe knowledge isn't wisdom. I saw a stat the other day, which is knowledge is knowing a tomato is a fruit, and wisdom is knowing not to put it in a fruit salad.
Yeah.
And it's true. And you have to think, like, this generation coming through, they're going to know so much. Any information they want to know, it's there. It's the application that's going to set people apart.
I just couldn't believe that. Yeah. I just generally thought that kids today, even with kind of some of the processed foods and stuff, were always going to live longer than the parents. But might not be the case.
And I'm well aware that just because you live a long time doesn't mean that you're living. Does that make sense? Whereas sometimes people who've had some of the best lives ever, they live to 40, 50, 60 because they might have took every chance. They might have put themselves under a lot of stress, but had these amazing experiences. They've lived a life.
I think a lot of parents as well, they give their kids this food and they go, oh, it's a bit puppy fat. It's all right. He's not overweight. He's just growing. He's just a growing boy. But you can give your kids an irreversible disease in diabetes if you're not careful, that they'll have for the rest of their life, just from the way you fed them.
And I think it's important to observe and not necessarily judge in this situation. I've got a couple of clients who work in schools, and they say it's difficult sometimes because you see what some of the kids come with in their lunch bag, or the lack of what they come with in their lunch bag, just the actual whole food, the substance, anything like that. They don't like water. It's just mad things like that. And you think, I know kids are fussy, but it's our responsibility as parents.
Well, my Mrs. Amy, she works in one of the worst areas in Sheffield, in this school, and she tells me some funny stories, funny but worrying stories about what the kids bring in for their packed lunches. Yeah. Like, one of the worst things she saw was, it was a family-sized pack of Doritos, bag of Haribo, like decent size, again, big bag, not the little ones you get.
How old are these kids?
She's coaching. She's not coaching. She's teaching. It's year one. She teaches. So what's that? 5?
Yeah,
5, 6.
It's good going to put away a family-sized bag of Doritos. To be fair,
I know. And then like a chocolate bar, Doritos, Haribo, and a chocolate bar. That's your lunch. Sending you to school. See you in a bit.
I mean, 5-year-old me a bit buzzing.
Oh no, yeah. But even as a little kid, you know deep down that this ain't good. Everyone around me is not eating this.
Yeah.
And even when I would like overeat on sweets and stuff, I wouldn't feel good in myself. And you know that feeling even as a kid.
Yeah.
So
I know Dave Hember's doing some great work trying to improve these really poor areas of any city, but in particular Sheffield, because you typically find that the socio-economic climate in these certain areas, typically the health markers are lower as well. And it's no wonder, like fast food and rubbish food, hyper-processed, is cheaper.
I think yes and no.
I think
yes and no.
I think it's an easier choice as well.
I think if you look at how many, like, I remember a bit of a personal story, this one, but I remember when I was first setting up my business and I was really, really counting the pennies, right? I'm trying to kind of get new clients, pay my own rent, feed myself. I remember going to some of the cheaper shops like Farm Foods, things like that. And I would go in there and I was staggered at how cheap some of the shit food was. And I'd be looking through like this really cheap meat, pretty processed to be fair, but it was perfect for what I could afford. And for a short period of time, I did eat those things because it is all I could afford. And And so I get that. I get that it is cheaper to eat some shit foods and more processed foods. But I think on the flip side, if you also look at a lot of these families in terms of like how many takeouts they have and how much they'll spend on that, it's usually quite high as well.
It's breaking that cycle as well. Like, you know, it's tough for people to have an influence, whether that's us, whether that's teachers. It's not impossible, but it's tough to have an impact sometimes, especially if it's deep-rooted beliefs maybe in the families, or, you know, well, you don't know what it's like living off a, 20 quid a week for your food bill. Like, that must be appalling.
Yeah. No, for sure. I totally get that. Like, well, you know, I've had moments where I've had to be like that. Yeah, for sure. So I know from a personal point of view, but then to go and feed a family on that is a whole different ballgame.
Definitely.
Do you think laws would change things? Let's say, for example, the government brought in a law where they looked at the BMI of certain kids and said if it's over a certain point, you know, you need to, you need to look at your kind of the way you're feeding your kids, and maybe we put some prosecutions on you.
Having been to a socialist country in Cuba, and I'm going to call it socialist rather than communist, because that's what they call it. That's tough. That's tough to watch sometimes, because everyone's got same rations, same budget, do with it what you will. And the hard bit with that is some people choose to be responsible, and some people choose to buy rum and just drink themselves to oblivion. And that's hard to see. So it's the habits and the behaviours that will probably establish it. I think governments and governing bodies, they've probably only got so much control. They can put bumpers in there, but people will still throw the bowling ball onto the ceiling or into other lane, or try and break the barriers. That's typically what happens.
If you don't send your kids to school enough times, you can be prosecuted.
Yeah. But which is mad, because I met someone on Friday who homeschools his kid.
If you homeschool them, I think there is also some tests obviously they have to take to make sure that they are being homeschooled and it's being done correctly. So there's some kind of regulation there.
Yeah.
But where's the regulation on parents feeding the kids right?
Yeah. Jamie Oliver, probably.
Jamie Oliver's helping, he's giving ideas.
Yeah.
But where's the laws?
It's hard, because it's when does free will stop at that point? I think they're the sort of horrible questions that you've got to ask about. At what point does free will then become impossible? And how much, and I'm going to get not conspiratorial here, but you have to think, how much does ill health feed other industries and other ventures and other products? And
it's really difficult because, if governments start putting laws on, like, right, you have to keep your kids under, let's call it quite a reasonable BMI, just so they're not getting so crazy overweight.
Yeah.
Are they then going to have to subsidise things? Will they have to subsidise foods so that, certain kids and families have access to those healthier style foods and things that are maybe a bit more costly, but mean that the kids are able to eat better nutrition and the parents don't get prosecuted for putting them into a certain BMI? It's a tricky one. Yeah, it's a real moral dilemma.
It's a cool thought experiment as well. And maybe it's something we do explore another time, because there's tons of like counter arguments you can make, and like, what's the definition of health? And surely people being more healthy would be better for the economy, more productive. But again, I feel bad for just pinning the blame on capitalism all the time. But when profits become less important than people, we'll probably see a change.
Quality suffers. On to our next one. Despite the booming fitness tech, step counts have been declining worldwide, even as wearables grow, suggesting more tracking doesn't mean more movement.
It's not working. What the trend that we're on isn't working, and I'm convinced. I thought the other day, actually, I saw. Have you ever heard of the 80-year cycle?
No.
It's basically the quote that you always use, which is, and again, very patriarchal: strong men make good times make weak men, weak men. It's that as a cycle. And if you backdate it now, there's an amazing video that I'll try and seek out for you, but that video now sort of predicts that in the next year or two, we're going to go back into the good times. We're basically in the thick of the hard times now, because everything's like, we've been led by just bad people. And now we're probably going to be led by more morally inclined people, people who want to make a difference and make things better. So we'll probably see the return of good times again.
What makes you say that? What makes you say that we're being led by better people?
The point that they made with this 80-year cycle were probably the generation of war children, for example. So if you think about in the 40s, 20 years after that, those people were raising, kids, but they were wartime children. The wartime children probably carried some habits or some survival mechanisms from their parents. And then by the time it gets to the great grandkids, they're the ones who become, they're a bit more safe because there's minimal wars and things maybe feel a little bit more safe. They're typically the ones who'll say, do you know what? Now we need to switch it. It's not typically the wartime people in the 40s, because let's face it, mate, they were absolute heroes. But the ones in maybe the 80s and 90s who were leading us, they're the ones who I raise my eyebrow at and be like, you probably speculated here, saw an opportunity, took it financially, took it, unethically or whatever, didn't really factor in morals very much. Whereas the people in the 40s, mate, they were all moral driven. They were like, we cannot let this regime take over our great nation. And I guarantee the people who were making these big decisions in 80s, 90s, and maybe even 2000s, they weren't thinking that. They didn't care. They were just like, how do we make money?
It's difficult to talk on this without getting too political, isn't it?
I've been really cautious in saying that, but it got me thinking about that quote that you said. Yeah.
It's difficult to, I think, really know where we're heading right now, because the world's so nuts and crazy. And if anything, based on political appointments globally, we're becoming very more right-wing. And generally right-wing people are usually a little bit less ethical. They're usually a little bit more profit-driven. I'm probably referring more to, let's say, the Americas at the moment. They're kind of a lot more right-wing in their thoughts.
And let's face it, right-wingers typically, it's simpler because it's more extreme and more polarising. Simpler isn't always better when it comes to moral dilemmas. Even
over here, you see massive, groups of people joining the Reform Party, being more vocal around that. Certain areas of Europe are massively right-wing now. France springs to mind.
The French are great at rioting, by the way.
At what?
Rioting.
Rioting.
They seem to just riot over everything.
Yeah, riots and protests.
Yeah, seems to be really efficient at that.
That's a story about when I went to see my friend in Paris, and we were in his little apartment, and we were extremely hungover one morning, and all I could hear was racketing and car noise outside. I was like, mate, is this what the city's like in the morning? This is ridiculous. So I popped my weary head up out the window, and there's all these cars with banners on there, and I'm like, oh, there's probably some kind of protest going on. So I've looked out, and it's all these old banger cars. And I says, mate, what are these guys doing? They're so loud. They're not even moving. They're sat literally outside your apartment, beeping their horns in the street. And he pokes his head up and goes, oh, they're protesting about some new tax for old cars. And I thought, what's the tax? He goes, oh, it's gone up by about 50 quid a year or something. I was like, they're out in the street beeping their horns over 50 quid a year.
Different cultures.
Yeah,
different cultures.
They will literally riot and protest over anything over there.
I mean, I've forced us on a big digression now, mate, but back to step count. I just feel like the current system doesn't work, and all these stats are sort of reiterating it, and I don't like it.
Yeah, it's tricky, because I think we live in this bubble where we think that step counts and activity are all on the rise. People we coach, we're getting them to do things. We're making our own little change in the world, aren't we, right? With the people that come to us, and we're instilling these new habits and behaviours. But you're fighting a losing battle, basically. It's like shooting into an ocean, expecting to hit a fish. We're kind of massively outnumbered by the corporations and what they have in terms of impact.
We're basically teaching navigation skills, not map writing skills, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So we're teaching people how to navigate the current landscape rather than saying, right, write your own map, decide where you want to go.
Yeah.
I just feel like we're too busy teaching protocols to navigate the world rather than saying, right, what do you want to do? Let's do it.
It's a great way of putting it, actually, because I've said this before, the world isn't set up for us to be in shape. It's set up for us to fail, to be overweight, to be obese, to not move much, whether that's through our jobs, whether it's through having a McDonald's and a Starbucks and all these fast food places on the corner of every street. It's set up poorly. It is. It's set up for us to eat crap all the time. It's about how you navigate that.
I feel like we're wisening up. I hope we are. I hope we'll see a bit of a hockey stick trend.
The stats aren't great, but we're going to keep going through, and I'm going to try and end with some more positive ones. Speaking of optimism, heart attacks spike on Mondays.
God.
The stress of returning to work causes a surge in cardiac events at the start of the week. The most dangerous time for your heart is between 8 and 9 a.m. on a Monday, linked to cortisol and blood pressure spikes. Did you also know that when the clocks go back, that's the biggest day for heart attacks in the year?
Really?
Yeah, so when obviously we have daylight saving hours over here,
Yeah.
when the clocks go back and you lose an hour, is that right? Yeah, when the clocks go back.
I'm glad you're confused at this. I never know. I just wait for my mum to put it in our group chat.
I think that's right. When the clocks go back and you lose an hour, I'm going to go with that. The day after that is the most common day for heart attacks nationally. I think globally. Depending on if you have the daylight saving hours in your kind of year.
Wonder why that is.
It's because you lose an hour of sleep. And an hour of sleep, again, it's cortisol spikes, it's blood pressure spikes, and that's what tips people over the edge.
Wow.
Your zip code predicts your health more than your genetic code.
Yeah, going back to that socioeconomic areas. Yeah.
Life expectancy can vary by 20 years between neighbourhoods in the same city due to differences in walkability, pollution, access to healthy food, and green spaces. An example given here is Chicago's west side versus north side shows a 30-year life expectancy gap.
Jeez.
I've heard about Chicago being very, wealth gap and divide is pretty high. Yeah,
Sounds a bit British, Chicago. It sounds like the way that is. I remember Chris Williamson once described England as a bunch of sub-economies attached onto a massive economy, being London. So the majority of the UK's economy is London.
Yeah.
That hurts my head.
Shame, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's why, all the decisions are made down there. That's why they've probably got quite a polarising view of the UK. They're not really in touch with what is going on elsewhere. But again, another political chat. We'll try and steer clear of that one.
I feel like I'm going to try and stop the political chat now. I'm going to stop.
You'll be interested in this next one. Over 70% of gym memberships go unused after 3 months. The global fitness industry profits heavily from non-attenders. Some gyms even use algorithms to target customers least likely to actually use their membership.
Call them sleepers.
Sleepers.
And as an ex-general manager of a gym, it's a thing. It's a real-life model. As a PT, I don't like it. Because it's like people are paying you and you're not doing anything.
Yeah.
Morally, that hurts me. But yet, it's a model. They're the easiest people to service, mate. The ones who are paying you you don't need to do anything.
The fact that algorithms now are targeting people who might fit that mold is quite scary as well.
I've just realised what you've just said. So algorithms are saying if you market to this person, they're likely to be
some
part
gyms,
of that 70%.
Some gyms even use algorithms to target customers least likely to actually use their membership.
Oh, have a word.
That's wild, isn't it? You can probably guess, probably more the big gyms, I want to imagine, that are doing that. We've mentioned it before, but pretty much every pure gym in Sheffield is opposite a McDonald's.
That's fair, yeah. Yeah, that's a good observation.
I don't think it's just in Sheffield. These are my observations from living here.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure that's nationally. And one of their strategies is to get opposite a fast food chain. So they eat this fast food, walk out and go, shit, I probably shouldn't have had that burger. I probably need to get in that gym. Right. And how long are those people going to stick there? Because they love McDonald's, but they know they should be in the gym. Yeah. They might go for a few months, sack it off, continue paying the bills, be back in McDonald's. Whether that's a bit of a ploy from places like Pure Gym.
I hope not. I won't be surprised, but I hope not.
I think it's definitely a tactical, and if I'm being totally honest, as a businessman, I think it's a fucking brilliant move. As a business person looking on that strategy, I think that's fantastic. Getting outside McDonald's where people are instantly regretting or being like, oh, another McDonald's shit, feeling a bit shit about themselves, walking out and seeing Pure Gym. That's where I should be. Okay, do you know what? I'm just going to go over now and sign up. That for business moves is amazing.
Oh, yeah. Morally,
piece of
shit.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe a bit sketchy, I would say. Because maybe they are trying to entice people out of McDonald's into there, you could say. But if they are doing what this study's saying, and they are, like the algorithms, trying to position themselves to people who they know probably won't ever really use it, but it's a quick, easy, over the road, get there, sign up, and I've got them locked in. You don't know. It's speculation from two fit dads.
Knowing that this board meeting's going on, saying, right, guys, we're going to come up with an algorithm. Let's get more sleeper clients. Like, have a word. Come on.
Yeah. Number 20, more people die from overeating than undereating globally. Obesity-related deaths, which are heart conditions, heart disease, strokes, diabetes, now exceed deaths from undernutrition, a massive shift from just a few decades ago. Paradoxically, many low-income countries now face both hunger and obesity, sometimes in the same household.
Wow. Band-Aid 30 years ago.
I'm fascinated it happens in the same household.
That's interesting. But
Because you would associate households with certain incomes and being able to... How can someone be obese and another person be malnourished?
I mean, we're eldest of 3 brothers, mate. You know, snooze, you lose sometimes. It's like,
Maybe that's what it is.
Mum's bought these custard tarts, lads. I'm having that.
Maybe
I'm bigger than you.
maybe the dominant kid's just getting really overweight and the other ones are suffering.
You see that with dogs sometimes, you know.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. One, I'm not comparing, you know, low-income household to dogs, so don't come at me. But yeah, you see that with dogs sometimes.
I'm looking at Walter down there. There's no danger of him being overweight. Needs to bulk up, I think, that lad.
It's just athletic machine, isn't it?
Half the world's population is deficient in one or more key micronutrients. Over 3 billion people are estimated to be deficient in iron, vitamin D, iodine, B12, even in wealthy countries. This hidden hunger often goes undetected, but it impairs immune function, brain development, and productivity on a mass scale.
Whole foods. There's your solution, unfortunately. Not just vitamins, not just supplements.
Yep.
It's going to be the whole foods.
Everyone wants a pill. Everyone wants to take that. And those things help. Let's not downplay those. Yeah. I'm rattling in the morning like everyone else, but I'm making sure that the whole foods are there for sure.
I think it's knowledge as well. Like, I know that some of my darker skin clients, they probably need, I believe, more vitamin D. If I've got that right. I've said that with such conviction now.
I'm actually not sure now. Yeah, I think you might be right.
Yeah.
I think you're actually right. I think their skin is used to more vitamin D.
Yeah.
And that's why they need boosts. Yeah, I think you're right.
I'm pretty sure that, again, with a few of my darker skin clients, when we've recommended that, their immune function's gone up. You know, they become ill less often. So it does get you thinking.
Yeah.
But it's that awareness.
Muscle loss kills faster than you think. After age 30, you can lose 3 to 8% of muscle mass per decade, accelerating after the age of 60. And this is a direct predictor of early death, obviously something we spoke about before. Muscle is now considered a vital sign of longevity. Loss of muscle, or sarcopenia, contributes to falls, frailty, and even insulin resistance.
So you're telling me these people in this generation who are going to live to be 150, if they keep dropping muscle at that rate, they're going to look like Mr. Burns.
Mr. Burns. Brilliant, love that.
It's like a nation of Mr. Burns.
Hopefully they're not as mean as evil as Mr. Burns.
Just rubbing their hands together with a horrible laugh.
So 3 to 8% per decade is pretty wild, accelerating after the age of 60. And it's now a vital sign of longevity.
Wow.
But we mentioned this before, like, you know, lack of muscle does equal more falls, frailty, and the consequences of those can be, it's a bit of a nail in the coffin. They've done studies on this. I'm not sure the exact details, but once you have a big fall, there's something like I don't know, I'm plucking a number out the sky, but just based on kind of memory here, but I think it's something like a 5 to 8 year window before you become like, if it doesn't heal properly and you have some complications from it, a 5 to 8 year window, something like that.
I always remember Roisin O'Bentley, who came on from Thrive Physio, and when she said about women as they age and the pelvic floor declines, they end up leaking, standing up because they're embarrassed and they rush in, and then that's typically when the falls can happen. And that stat is just mad. Yeah. So I'm not saying it's all linked to physical activity and wellness, but you have to look for these factors, don't you?
Yeah, nuts. Absolutely nuts. And even the insulin resistance thing, like obviously we know that muscle mass keeps insulin levels high, and as soon as you start losing that, everything drops off. Final fact, children are developing adult diseases in elementary school in some regions. Children as young as 8 are being diagnosed with fatty liver disease, type 2 diabetes, and hypertension. The disease is typically seen in 50 to 60-year-olds. Pediatric liver transplants and obesity-related liver failure are now a real and rising phenomenon.
I've heard that kids who develop obesity, they seem to mature faster. So they basically enter puberty quicker. Obviously, if that BMI index, the sarcopenia kicks in a little bit earlier, which unfortunately it shouldn't do for kids. But if the environment's dictating that, again, this one upsets me again, mate.
And that links back to like some of the earlier points about obviously kids not living as longer. Like, this is why, right?
Yeah.
They're getting these diseases that are only seen in people 50 to 60 years old. How are kids getting that? Like, it's nuts, isn't it?
They're impressionable, mate. Easy to market to.
Do you think governments need to maybe roll out some kind of scheme where if it's not a prosecution thing for the parents for getting the kids overweight, then maybe it's something like a course they have to go on. You have to go on a nutrition course. I think that's not a bad idea.
Yeah. I think the more that you know, great, but then it's the application again into it. So it's not necessarily maybe the kids. Do you mean the parents going on there as well?
No, just the parents. Forget the
Just
kids.
the parents.
It's not the kids. It's not the kids' fault.
Yeah.
Kids are going to want food. My little one, if I gave her ice cream every time she wanted ice cream, she wouldn't like she does now.
Yeah.
We have to be like, no, that's once a day. You have your thing, and then that's it. You've had your treat. I think some kids just, every time they want something, they get given it, and unfortunately.
This is what I mean about the leadership side of things. There will be leaders in the next decade or two that come in and go, that's not good enough, what can we do? Whereas that question's probably never been asked before.
It's hard. Yeah, you're looking at moral dilemmas, and if me and you were PM tomorrow, mate, there'd be a lot of these. I just go through this list. I literally would go through this list, starting with the kid stuff, and go, right, how are we going to curb all these? What have we got to put in place right now? I definitely would roll out a course. I think the same way, like I've got some dentists and doctors that I coach, and if they ever have kids in where they feel there might be an issue with the family or something's going on, you basically have to get in touch with child services. It's part of your deal as a health professional. I think the same should be with being overweight. If teachers, doctors, people who are getting in contact with these kids and looking after them feel there might be an issue with their parents when it comes to nutrition, highlight it, flag it.
Unfortunately, some of the stats that you've thrown at us, I don't think the demand would keep up, unfortunately. The number of professionals who could help, and that's worrying.
Maybe the course, if you had to roll it out, would be so full of kids that it would be its own little, you'd be taking, I mean, again, what's the kind of damage to economy? You're taking parents out of work, putting them on a course. There's so many knock-on effects, isn't there?
That quote that Josh Agdam gave last week about Henry Ford, saying if you ask people back then what they needed in the way of a car or what they need from the next vehicle, they'd have said a faster horse. So I think a lot of people might need to be shown this rather than just being said, like, what do you need? And I feel like that's my point about the leadership at the moment. It's like, what do we all need? Okay, we'll try and facilitate that. It's like, no, use your initiative, get the experts involved, let the experts actually collate that, understand human nature, and just see what we can do. Because at the minute, we're giving a lot of people a lot of choice, and they might not understand what they need and want yet, just yet. But
it makes sense having a kid as well and looking at nutrition and how we feed her and how conscious you have to be. Because there are some days as well, like, look, let's not be honest. Let's not like, beat around the bush, sorry. We just can't be arsed some days. And if she's eating well all week and she wants a little treat and we're having some processed foods, we might give her something. But you have to be very kind of careful about how often you give those things. And it definitely makes me have a newfound respect for people like Jamie Oliver, who literally took the bull by the horns and went, I'm going to go into schools and see what they're feeding these kids. And don't get me wrong, I love the turkey twizzler as much as the next man, but I'm kind of glad they're gone because they were full of shit. They were ultra processed. And I think the school that is now are generally a lot better. People are switching onto this. I get told at school what Harlow's had. She gets we get a little sheet at the end every day, and it has on the kind of form what she's eating, and it's good stuff. It's homemade stuff. They have a kitchen there, full setup where they can make home fresh cooked meals.
You said 2 words earlier in relation to letting kids just give them what they want. Do you know what I mean? There's a time and a place for that. You said 2 words, which were some days. Unfortunately for some people, that's most days, and it's a story of ratios, in my opinion. And it's maybe a relationship thing, especially with food, especially with kids. Food's emotional, and it's really emotional. Like, I still have soda bread. Tried soda bread before?
I don't think I have. No,
it's a bit of an Irish thing, and obviously my nan was from Londonderry, so having soda bread or having something like white pudding in in like an Irish breakfast. That stuff reminds me of my nan. Horrendous for you.
Is it?
Yeah. But
Okay.
I love it because it reminds me of my nan. And if you've got an entire generation being built on sweets, like there's a reason why these American sweet shops are growing, because it's, it's nostalgic. It's almost like you get stuff from America. It reminds you of all the really high sugary stuff you used to have as a kid. Trying to combat emotions is tough, never mind facts and ethics. Like, feelings are tough, man.
It's hard because we also don't want to put complexes into kids. I've used my missus as an example a few times in this podcast, but she's got a bit of an issue with sweets because when her mum was, when she was younger, her mum used to basically limit how many sweets she could have. It could only be sweets with certain, without certain additives and things like that. And it was very regulated, too regulated probably.
I've always said, as a guest on this show, I'd love to have some sort of politician. I worry, I'd love some feedback from the people because I want to understand how these things work. I roughly know how it works in the form of you don't always get an expert in transport as a transport secretary. It's not how it works. You have a mediator. That's what their role as a minister is.
Yeah.
But I think to spread that message and for people to understand why the rules made, everyone's got their own political views. I'd love to have someone on to discuss that.
I worry that a podcast like that would just get too politically answered.
Yeah, maybe.
And we'd get no clear-cut answers, which you probably wouldn't. It'd be politician talk, and they just dance around the question when really you probably got, let's be honest, back pockets of McDonald's in there.
Yeah.
You've got Burger King in your back pocket. And he's giving reasons and political answers as to why it is the way it is, when really it's let's not be around the bush. These people pay me more money.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I'm not asking for a government of Goggins. I feel like that'd lead us down a weird path. But I almost want people to be we need to do better. It's, it starts with you. What decisions can you make to be better? Because them stats, mate, are really, really damning.
Should we go on some more kind of positive ones?
Yeah, let's do it,
I've got a separate window open here. I'm just going to pull this up. So let's have a look. So we've got, where are the positive ones? Global wins for health and fitness. There might be some kind of contradictory stuff here, but I think it's related to certain parts. So life expectancy as an overall is rising, I promise you. In most parts of the world, life expectancy continues to increase thanks to better healthcare, nutrition, fitness awareness. Japan, again, and Switzerland have an average life expectancies of 84 years.
Wow, that's really good.
Yeah.
Nice.
With strong links to regular walking, balanced diets, and community activity. I like the community activity as well. Big push on that, getting people out, moving together. It does say overall daily step counts are increasing. Global studies show that people are walking more in countries like the UK, Australia, Scandinavian nations. Daily average step counts have rebounded strongly post-pandemic, often exceeding 7 to 8,000 steps per day. Plant-based eating is on the rise. Worldwide, there's a major shift towards plant-based diets, reducing risk factor of chronic disease. Cities like Tel Aviv, Berlin, Los Angeles are now hubs for healthy vegan and vegetarian cuisine, improving public and environmental health. There's a few different opinions on plant-based diets. I mean, we've the pros and cons to this. We've talked about sustainability. Again, if we all moved plant-based, it's another issue, same way.
And again, if it's ethics-based, I ain't going anywhere near that. You do you. If it's health-based, I'll always have that chat with somebody if they're doing it for health reasons.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And if they're doing it to show off, then get in the bin.
Yeah.
More seniors are lifting weights. In countries like Finland and the US, other adults are embracing resistance training. Programs promoting strength training for people over 60 have lowered fall risks, improved mobility, and boosted confidence. That's a good thing. I think, again, in certain nations and states, this is a big thing now. The weight-based movement and strength training is being really pushed.
What's Dave Hembrough call it? Old age strengtheners.
Old age strengtheners. More of those, please.
Love that.
Youth fitness programs are expanding. Nations like Norway, Canada, are invested in school-based movement programs, ensuring kids get 60 plus minutes of daily physical activity. This has led to measurable gains in physical and mental health in young people. We obviously know this is a big rising issue, mental health in men, but also young adolescents as well. So to kind of see that nations like Norway and Canada are actually having programs based around this, it is awesome.
Oh, as the dad of a young boy, if he doesn't move in a day, he's just like a big ball of frustration. If he moves, I can't help but feel like his attention span improves, his willingness to be creative improves. I just think all that sort of stuff. So I'm seeing it from a case study of one.
You see it firsthand, even now, like Walter, you probably heard him in the background squealing and wailing. He just wants to move. He's been stuck in this room. I've opened the door for him. He'll go upstairs and be happy now. If he gets caught in a room for a certain period of time, he gets a bit agitated.
True.
Same with us, right? Cycling is booming. Cities like Amsterdam, Copenhagen, Bogota. That's right. I don't know how to say that. I stumbled on that. Bogota. It's somewhere in South America, I think. Don't quote me.
I want to say Argentina. But
maybe Bogota. I think it's South America somewhere.
Right, geography with Brad and Ryan. We like this.
Tune in weekly. I'll start that again. Cities like Amsterdam, Copenhagen, and Bogota have invested heavily in cycling infrastructures. Have you been to Amsterdam?
No, I need to though. I really want to.
The cycling culture in there is awesome. I think a lot of cities do try and replicate their cycling cities on Amsterdam because it is so good.
It's really flat.
Although if you step in a cycling lane, you will get shouted at. I'll tell you now, they are brutal, the cyclists.
They're quite direct as well, the Dutch. I say this as someone who's got a client now, really good friend who's Dutch. Very direct.
Oh yeah,
Just say what
they're
they
not
think.
afraid to speak their mind. I'll tell you that.
They mean what they say and they say what they mean.
In the Netherlands, 27% of all trips are made by bike, helping reduce pollution and improve cardiovascular health. I think, again, if you set up an infrastructure of bike in your city, you'd be amazing how much more people. I mean, it's just the culture over there. Like, you just get around the city on a bike. There's bikes everywhere, literally littered across the streets.
I think in Amsterdam's so flat as well. I've read that it's really flat. Whereas Sheffield's, we'd have a really fit city if that was the case, because it's just bang.
We might need some e-bikes. Some e-bikes, please, but some infrastructure for that. Yoga and mindfulness are going mainstream. From India to New York, yoga is now a global wellness movement with tens of millions of people practicing it regularly. Studies have shown that even 10 minutes of daily mindfulness and stretching reduces cortisol and improves sleep. I concur with that. I mean, I used to do some yoga a few years ago. Have I told you my yoga story, by the way?
No.
As to why I stopped doing it?
No.
Oh, it's the most embarrassing. It's probably my most embarrassing story of all time.
My brain's gone in the gutter, mate. You need to explain.
It's right to be there, mate, because I started doing yoga, and to concur with these facts around mindfulness and how much it just reduces cortisol, I would do like this hour of yoga, and I would literally float out this room. It was I can't tell you how good it felt. It's not like stretching. Like, I do some static stretching for 5-10 minutes on the kind of floor down here. I feel pretty good, but there's something about yoga that's just very calming. It was awesome. Did it for about 6, 7, 8 weeks. And then I had a moment, mate, in one session where I was on the way to yoga. Stomach wasn't in a great place, I'll be honest with you. It was grumbling a little bit on the way there. Got in there, felt okay, and it was literally the last 5 minutes of the session. And we've done this one where, imagine you sat on your bum, right? You put the soles of your feet together and your knees are spread out to the side. They've asked us to lean forwards.
Compromised position.
Very compromising position for my very grumbling tummy. We're in a hall. I mean, I'm talking like a PE-sized hall, mate. I've let off the squeakiest fart you can ever imagine, and it's echoed. It's an actual echo. I heard it 2 minutes later on the corner. And people around me have gone, gasped. People on the other side of the room started giggling and chuckling. And then it was just one of those moments where you want the world to like swallow you up. Oh, I can't even say I went bright red. I kept my head down. People around me obviously knew it was me. Bear in mind, there's 2 blokes in there as well. There was one and me. It was me and one other bloke.
Shout, Dave! What are you doing, Dave?
Just stitch him up. He was on the other side of the room that I couldn't have blamed it on him.
Fair.
And then everyone knew it was me, and I never went back after that, unfortunately. I was too embarrassed.
That's really sad, mate.
But the instructor was quite nice. She went, "It's natural, don't worry." She went, "Everyone calm down." I'm thinking, oh God, she's calming people down after I've farted now.
Yeah, you don't want it's going to be a nightmare if your surname rhymes with anything like fart that you can put in there. So I'm trying to think of a silly nickname that you could bolt on. So it's probably done the right thing, mate, not going back. But
don't try and don't try and give me a nickname based on my
I'm
advice.
just,
I need to leave us in the past.
It's just how I think, mate, unfortunately. I just think of nasty nicknames.
We've done the cycling one. Fitness groups build communities. So I'll rephrase that. Group fitness builds communities. Whether it's Zumba in Brazil, CrossFit in the US, or Park Fitness in China, group workouts reduce loneliness and increase adherence to fitness routines. People who work out with others are more than 50% more likely to stick with their long-term fitness goals.
It's very much my background, coming from the group fitness side of things. Biggest session I ever did were like 55 people. And just seeing people train together, make friends as well. That's really, really important. I've seen people marry some of the people in the groups. I've seen some people be bridesmaids, be best mates, go on holiday together. It's amazing. And just to be part of that and bring people together, doing something healthy, that's a really big pride point of mine.
Agreed. Health tech is empowering more people. Wearables like Apple Watch, Garmin and Whoop have motivated millions to track sleep, recovery and movement. Data shows people with fitness trackers take 1,800 more steps per day than those without.
Just make sure you action whatever data that you gather. If it's good, do more of it. If it's bad, think about it.
I thought it'd be more than that. 1,800 doesn't seem that much, does it? Considering Whoop's like 300 odd quid a year.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it'd be more than that. Right. Maybe not. Mental health and movement are now linked. I mean, this is relatively obvious. We know this. More countries now officially recognise exercise as a frontline treatment for mild to moderate depression and anxiety. The UK's NHS and Australia's health agencies prescribe walking groups and fitness classes as part of mental health care plans. I'm glad we're in there in terms of being on the forefront of this. And I've had people who've suffered with anxiety, depression. They've been to the GP and they are kind of, it's one of the main sources of advice now is get out and go for walks.
I remember doing a survey at one of the gyms I used to work at, and we asked them top 3 reasons why you come to the gym. And I could have sworn it would be, to look better and to move better. Not necessarily to feel better. Feel better were number one. Always, to improve my mental health or words to that effect. It was number one.
I love that. Let's, I'm just going to type in just to see if there's any more. Give me 5 more.
5 more? 5 more positives?
5 more positives.
I mean, whilst we're having a search, mate, what are your observations? What do you think? Any random health facts that you've sort of anecdotally maybe you've seen from working with people? Maybe some benefits that you're like, I didn't know that made a big difference to that. I've got one in particular, which is I always ask people when they first walk in, scale of 1 to 10, how are you feeling? And if they say I feel like a 6 today, in the space of an hour, I can get them feeling 8 out of 10 more energy, which shouldn't make sense. If someone's coming in with no energy and they come into the gym and they give energy, they leave with more energy. That shouldn't make sense. But that is one of those facts that I'm like, if you come into the gym, you give energy, you're probably going to have more energy at the end of it. I find that wild.
Hormones are a wild thing, right? Once they start rushing the body and the body likes it, it releases the serotonin. It's amazing how it makes you feel better. Yeah.
And it's even like the mitochondria, without getting too sciencey with it, just how that fires up and becomes a bit more alive, shall we say. Yeah.
Nothing off the top of my head, but I'm sure if I went away, I'd have some to think about. But there was one that a client mentioned this morning when I was told him I was doing this podcast about health and fitness facts across the world. And he said that he actually owns a chain of care homes.
Okay.
And he has a lot of facts and figures around the elderly. And he said that for the last 5 years, the life expectancy of men in the UK has stayed the same. But in women, it's continued to rise.
Wow.
Which I thought was quite an interesting fact.
I'm going to make a joke then about just it's because men have died early. The stress levels have gone down.
I don't know, it could be something more sinister around, I don't know, mental health and things like that.
Maybe.
But I don't know. Maybe it's related to men's stubbornness. Maybe it's women's ability to pick up new exercises and be part of communities and groups like we've mentioned. I don't know. I probed one and said, why is that? And he couldn't give me an answer, but I thought it was quite an interesting fact.
Maybe the social side, because women are notoriously more social than men, aren't they?
Social just being social is one of the most important factors for longevity of life, as we've proven.
Maybe that's a definite factor then.
5 more, last one for today. Blue zones show how lifestyle beats genetics. In places like Okinawa, Japan, Ikaria, Greece, and Nicoya in Costa Rica, people live longer. Not because of perfect genes, but because of daily movement, strong social ties, whole food diets. These regions have some of the lowest rates of chronic illness and highest life satisfaction. That's interesting.
I think I've told you this before. Do you know why they're called blue zones?
You have mentioned blue zones before. Yeah, you have on a previous podcast. Yeah. That's right.
The guy who discovered them or started doing the studies just had a blue pen on a map and just circled them.
Did he?
That's it. That's it. That's the only reason.
And he named it after that.
Knit blue zones. He's like, Great. See these blue zones I've circled here. That's it.
Let's go with that. That's the scientific.
That's a blue zone. Yeah.
Interesting. This is another one related to women. Women's participation in sports is soaring worldwide. More women are engaging in sports than ever before, from grassroots to elite level. Events like the Women's World Cup and global running clubs have inspired a surge in female participation, especially in endurance sports and strength training. I'm glad strength training's in there. That's really good. Yeah. But I agree. The World Cup was amazing for the UK. I know so many mums now who I coach whose daughters are getting into football. I actually had a consultation with an old client who came back, and she 3 years ago took up football in her 40s, mid-40s, with a local team. And they just play 5-a-side. They're actually thinking about joining the league on a Sunday now.
Wow, that's cool.
And I was like, what's it like at that age? Many people get injured? She goes, no, everyone's lovely. No one barging into each other. It's really nice. We just run around, kick the ball around a little bit. She goes, I'll be honest with you, we're all shit, but we just get on and we love it. We have a good sweat. We have a good laugh. Sometimes it ends in a big pile up at the end where we all just jump on each other. I like that. It's like kids playing again, isn't it?
Why not? And let's face it, just because of gender, why should opportunities be limited? I know Ellie Roebuck, England goalkeeper, women's goalkeeper, she plays for Barcelona now. And I remember talking to Ellie years ago, and she said, I just feel like I'm really lucky. Like, she's insanely talented, brilliant keeper, but she feels like she's been born at the right time to really take advantage, and so she doesn't take it for granted.
Yeah.
And it's amazing women now are sort of paying it forward a little bit. So Ellie's so involved, her, Millie Bright, Mary Earps, like all Northern girls who are really trying to pay it forward, and it's really cool to see.
I'm glad they know how important this role is and
they do
what they've got at their hands and how much they can push women's sport on.
Yeah.
Because of the coverage from BBC and, how much of a national priority it is.
Yeah. It's amazing.
More workplaces are encouraging fitness across Europe, Asia, North America. Thousands of companies now offer paid workout breaks, standing desks, or subsidised gym memberships. There's still work to be done here, as we mentioned before, but I think there is more of a movement for this generally, which is good.
More of that, please. And obviously, shout out to Gravitate as well. We've had Sam Newton on there. They're like
the fitness truck,
and and Pete. Like Pete is, if you're listening to this and you are in charge of your corporate wellness at work,
and you're in the South Yorkshire region, this guy literally goes round to businesses. Gets you to go outside for half an hour to an hour, does a fitness class with you, and then sets you on with your day. What an amazing initiative that is by the company directors to say, yeah, you know what, this is a big priority to us. And the team building, how long employees will stay with you because of these little perks, job satisfaction, productivity. There's loads of things related to exercise.
As long as you can get over Pete's terrible humour, it's decent. It's decent. But.
Next one, public parks and trails are expanding. Countries like Singapore, Canada, New Zealand are investing heavily in green spaces, hiking trails, and urban fitness equipment. Is urban fitness equipment these ones you find in parks where it's like you lift your own body weight and stuff? Have you been to Millhouses Park? They've got a little setup there.
There's one round the corner from us at Richmond Park where I take Ted quite a lot, and Ted loves that. So it's just nice to see that stuff accessible.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think we forget, living in Sheffield, that it's so green.
It's the greenest city in the UK.
Is that right?
Yes, yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's got most parks. Yeah.
Wow.
Sleep is finally getting some respect it deserves. Good one to end on this. The global wellness movement has put sleep on the radar as a critical pillar of health. Apps, smart mattresses, education campaigns are helping people in over 50 countries improve their sleep hygiene. Oh, it's an icky word, that, sleep hygiene. But we know what it means. Which is linked to better metabolism, mood, and immune health.
And when we had our chat with James Wilson, the sleep geek, I don't know about you, but I spent a long time thinking about sleep. Do you know, that week, I slept terribly.
Did you?
I was thinking about sleep. So it's very unlike everything else we've discussed that can be like willed into existence. Sleep, you almost need the environment, and then you need the safety. You need the emotional, the physical security to go to sleep. And I was thinking about it that much that I just slept shocking.
It just shows you how much mental headspace is involved when it comes to sleep.
So I've always said, just be aware of that when you first start looking into sleep. You'll probably sleep worse because you're thinking about it.
Yeah.
And that's a paradoxical thing, but I'm glad the message is getting out there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And if you've got to get some apps, if you've got to maybe improve your mattress, if you've got these little things all available now. We updated our pillows not long ago. Went from like these really soft ones to I've got memory foam ones now. They are really firm, but God, much better night's sleep for sure. Yeah.
And like you said, what was it, a third of your life in bed? Is that right?
Something like that, yeah. Make it comfy.
Yeah. What's that? 30 life in bed, 30 life at work, 30 life doing leisure. Roughly.
I was going to say something very crude there.
What are you saying? Bed and leisure can be combined. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying it can work in the same. It can work in the same space.
There you go. Then. Half and then 2/4. Fair.
And a third of your life is telling your kids, no, we're not nearly there yet.
Yeah, basically.
Shall we sign off there?
Shall we?
Guys, thank you for joining us on the Fit Dads podcast. We'll see you on the next one.
See you soon.
Thank you, my man. Awesome.